Hello everybody again. Everybody must know this. Now, in the last video, I mentioned, spoke about in regards to why these shootings were happening, namely in reference to the recent massacre at Bondi, where 15 people were murdered, massacred, and around 47 in hospital with injuries. So I mentioned the cause being the indulgence in the slaughter of those horned creatures, which are mentioned all throughout the scriptures of any religious book. If you look at any religious book, you'll notice there are stories which revolve around the slaughter and the sacrifice of these creatures. And if you notice, the stories aren't very happy stories. Okay, a lot of bad things revolve around these stories, from murder to adultery to a lot of bad things. All right, so the main creature which I mentioned was the lamb. The lamb is being the main one which Abraham was given instead of or in lieu of him being given the order or the instruction to sacrifice or slaughter his son in the Bible. And this lamb goes all the way to the New Testament, where Jesus, namely, is referred to as the Lamb of God. Now, you see the sacrifice and the torture that surrounds, namely, this one animal, but you got the rest of these creatures also. Now, the partaking of them amounting to bad, if you notice these creatures in nature, they always fight. They always going to ram each other. Now, if you get a person that's having of the bull, right, of the biggest of them creatures of that group, and you get a person that's having of the lamb, what's going to happen is that bull's going to destroy the lamb, and that's why you see all over the Middle East. Basically, USA dominates because USA is of the bull. You see Judaism dominating a little country surrounded by all these Islamic nations. They can't beat Judaism because Judaism is mainly from the cow, through Moses and that. And so, and it's strange because if you really look at the Quran on an Islamic point of view, it doesn't enjoin upon sacrifice of any animals. It doesn't even mention the lamb, but you got people saying they're Muslims and committing to the celebrations of the year around the sacrifice of the lamb, which is not a Quranic accounting story. Abraham is not given a lamb in the Quran. He is given the instructions to ransom his son, yes, but he's told to enjoin upon his son at the becoming of age. Now, what's in relation to Islam and that story, or the Quran is trying to tell, which I translated, is that story. It's not about the slaughter or the sacrifice of a lamb or Abraham giving his son, being instructed to slaughter him. Okay, it's about Abraham teaching his son, was it Ishmael, the salat or the worship. You see, in Islam there is worship, and for worship in Islam is otherwise referred to as a ransom for one's sins. So by committing to the worship, by standing in front of God, you're ransoming your sins to God. So you're being forgiven. Now, there's a becoming of age for this, for Muslims when they become adults. So their fathers would teach them this. Now, this involves going to the ground and putting the forehead on the ground. Now, the Quran, it specifically mentions that Abraham put his son's forehead on the ground, okay, now, and offered a great ransom. This is a great ransom, this salah, this worship. So it is not translated that way. If you look at every scholar, they say, no, it's talking about the lamb, the story in the Bible, and it's relating to the story which comes from the Bible, and they follow that. And all their celebrations revolve around that. I've referred to it as that mistranslation. And it is, if you really look at it, because you can't say that it is the lamb it's talking about. These are, I refer to it as historians, are not really looking at the message of the Quran. The Quran also says the deeds reaches to God, not the sacrifice or the slaughter of the animal. It even says that too. So, there's so much that's been mistranslated and through over the years, which is very frustrating, especially for me. I've got to tell people, don't misjudge. Okay, when people say don't judge, I've got to tell them no, don't misjudge. I've got to say, I've got to translate other words such as beat. When sporting teams want to beat the other, they want to beat the other team, or you got a song and you got a beat to put to it. You want to be beatable, not unbeatable, happy, not unhappy, wise, not unwise. So, you got these words here, and the Quran, it goes deep into those words. If you really look at it very deeply, it won't say to murder somebody, it won't say to assault, but it will use the word beat. Now, if you don't understand that, you're going to mistranslate it, especially if you're going around sacrificing animals as if to be in the name of God and bloodshed over and over, and more so indulging in it. And this is not just a one-off thing. Remember this. It's not set. It's not practiced as only a one-off thing for people of these religions. They're getting caught up in it all year round, like on a daily basis, like all year round. I mean, come on, when is enough is enough? When is enough enough? Come on. When are people going to try to understand God? Be a person, There is good and there is evil. You've got to be on the good side. You're not going anywhere after you're deceased. Another person's coming in your place. Okay, not everything's going to be destroyed. Okay, for every death there is life. For every hot there is cold. For every bad there is good. But on a whole scale, don't you think it's right that the bad must go away one day? This is for the good to be, and there being a time frame of this. This is what heaven is, okay? And on the other side, there's hell. So, back to eating. On what do you eat if these animals aren't to eat and you're craving meat? Well, on one hand, you have those horned creatures which relate to the devil. The devil, or the Satan, is related to having horns. Well, go the other way. Go have that which has the wings. Have of that of the chicken. The chicken, in respect of being angelical, has the wings. Eat of that. The angels are always spoken of in respect of having wings. All right? Now, all the messengers are having those wings. So, thus, eat of the chicken, and thus in being angelical and having wings, and benefit in that regard. So, I have been doing this probably for the past 5 years of eating from that animal alone, and I've received the benefits from that, and it helps to be consistent. If you study any fitness routine, if you want to be fit and healthy, you study any fitness routine. It involves consistency, and consistency equals knowing what to expect, being healthy, keeping track of your goals, and continuing on that path to being a better person and focusing on living and being a good person while you're alive and dying properly in the name of actually God, not what you or what others say in trying to be some hero, because that's not how it is. All right, people, there has to be a time where understanding comes. People begin understanding what the earth is, what the universe is, and what they are as people, what part they play, in this whole cycle of things. Because there's a cycle. You study the universe. Don't go and look at it and conjure up these theories about what you say you think it might be, or it has to be this way, because no. Go type in universe into Google on the search bar. Go get a book on the universe and look at it, and look at the study of the universe, and you see what it's about. Okay, there's a time frame. The Earth shifts on its axis each year. There's around 25,000 ships. Anybody that saw my post, they know what I'm about. And, you know, that's it. Okay, so these books are only understandable and relatable to the universe through that knowledge, okay? God is one thing, the universe is another thing. You know, you got to understand it, all right? Another thing, God is a quality of here, of that which is within. It's not a person. Its name is He. You know, so you know, to be a godful person, not a godless person. To be a hopeful person, not a hopeless person. To be a careful person, not a careless person. You know, to have godliness, to be godly, right? Not to be ungodly or unhappy. To have those qualities within, this is what it's about. And when you start understanding there's these qualities, these good and bad, you understand that God is not a creator of good and bad. God only has to do with the good things in what you want to happen. The bad is of the bad, and that is of the bad. Okay? You have the bad of the Satan, the evil is of the, it can only be involved in evil. Okay, so it's either one way or the other. People need to get speaking, translating things for what they are properly, and quit indulging in this ridiculous transgressions and try being cool about it. I say heaven's a cool place. Still working on it, but I only eat food at room temperature. You might want to warm it up a bit. Warm it up a bit. You know? If you find that it's still making you not very happy, or just bear with it and continue trying and making effort for the bad things not to happen. You got to beat the evil, all right, and by making sure it doesn't happen in the world. Okay, and you don't do that by going out and being crazy and murdering people. You do it by fixing yourself and correcting your path. This is for the victims and the other, both. Okay, because it's not good to get caught up in these things. All right, so take care, and I'll leave you guys there tonight, and I won't bore you any longer. And take it easy. See ya. Bye.